Just 1 week ago, I spoke to you all, and I made a pledge to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. And I intend to keep that pledge. So first I want to share with you some updated information we've just received from DHEC. Then I want to speak to every teenager and young person in our community. So if you have a teenager you love, make sure you share this message with them. As of Wednesday afternoon, April 1st, we have received the following updated information from DHEC. Laurens County has one new case. This latest case involves a resident of the 29325 zip code, the Clinton area, and we also have a confirmed positive here in the 29360 zip code. These test results are coming from people who were infected 1 to 2 weeks ago and are now exhibiting symptoms. This means that the 4 individuals living in Laurens who have been infected have been living and likely circulating among us for that amount of time. I'll explain why that's important in a moment. Just since yesterday, there are 210 new cases across our state, which brings the daily total to 1,293 confirmed infections. And again, all of these individuals were likely infected 1 to 2 weeks ago and have now exhibited symptoms which warranted testing. The number of infections is increasing daily, and as the President indicated yesterday, we're in for a tough 2 weeks or so. 26 South Carolinians have died. This is both tragic and worrying, but I also want you to feel some assurance. I told you last week that we should expect a dramatic increase in infections, and that has happened. We've been planning for this. We've been working every day to make sure we're able to support our healthcare system and protect our first responders so we can protect you and care for your health. Your city and county government officials are talking every day, multiple times a day, and taking steps to make sure we maintain order and protect public health. The world is not spinning out of control. And for those of us who find comfort in God, we trust that this current struggle hasn't come as a surprise. There is a purpose, and this too shall pass. Now I want to address some dangerous behavior. One county official said today that times like these bring out the best and worst of humanity. We've seen ways in which this community is pulled together to take care of its own and lift each other's spirits. Sadly, we've seen how others have acted carelessly, selfishly, and dangerously. It's hard to believe, but there are people in our community who have falsely claimed to be infected, either in person, circulating among other members of the public in stores or in public places, or by making knowingly false posts about this on social media. It's hard to imagine why somebody would do such a thing, perhaps for attention. But whatever the reason, there is no good reason to spread false information and cause fear and panic. Spreading false information is dangerous to the community as a whole. Aside from the anxiety generated, in some situations, law enforcement must be called to respond to these reports, and valuable resources, both in manpower and limited supplies of personal protective equipment, are wasted. In this country, we take great pride in the First Amendment and our right of free speech. But even this right has limits. Just as it's illegal to shout fire in a crowded theater or to give false reports to a police officer, the knowingly false claims which have been made by some recently are not protected by the First Amendment. Not only are they not protected, they're criminal. Both the city of Laurens and Laurens County are united. If an individual or individuals knowingly spreads false information regarding COVID-19 infection, we will aggressively prosecute those individuals. We also continue to receive reports of individuals, especially teenagers, gathering at basketball courts and other public areas, engaging in close contact sports and other behavior. I want to speak to the teenagers in the city of Lawrence. Older folks, if you have a young person in your household, hit pause and call them over. They need to hear this. Look, we know it's tough to be cooped up. This is hard to accept if you're young and healthy. You're not infected. You don't have any reason to think any of your friends are infected. And even if you were, this doesn't really affect young folks, right? Surely it wouldn't hurt anything to go out and play a game with friends and get out of the house for a while. Sadly, that's wrong. We're still learning about this disease. But here is what we know. If you're around a person who has been infected, especially within 6 feet of an individual, you run a high risk of becoming infected by inhaling droplets of moisture, which they expel when they cough or sneeze or even breathe. These droplets can hang in the air for up to 4 hours. You can also infect yourself by touching surfaces on which those microscopic droplets have fallen, and then carrying the virus on your hands, which you may use to rub your eyes or put food in your mouth. That's why hand washing is so important. The thing is, infected people may not know that they're infected. It's not like you can just ask your friends, hey, do you have coronavirus? And if they say no, you're fine. In fact, a person who's carrying the virus may not experience symptoms for up to 2 weeks. And some people may never experience symptoms. And that's good for them, but bad for the rest of us. It's during this initial week or two of infection that a person is most contagious. They do what's called virus shedding. And so when you're standing close to someone, you may be infected simply by inhaling the moisture in their breath when they exhale. That game of pickup basketball involves touching a ball, and if you're playing good defense, you're going to be standing pretty close, exhaling and inhaling each other's breath. And you might be fine in the long run. But we're seeing cases where even young people are suffering from this virus. Just because it doesn't kill you doesn't mean it's not painful. Unlike the normal flu, coronavirus causes fibrosis in the lungs. It makes the person infected feel as if their lungs are filling with concrete. And we've seen evidence of the fact that even when a person survives the infection, and most do, thankfully, it may still leave lasting damage on the lungs. Thankfully, there are some cases which aren't as severe as others. But if you were infected, whether it be the friend you're hanging out with or the people that you go home to, you pose a danger to their health too. If you're infected when you hang out with your friends, and you're highly contagious for the next 2 weeks, think of all the people with whom you interact during that time. Are you willing to risk the health of your mother or father, your grandmother or grandfather, or perhaps your best friend's family, just so you can play a game? That's why we've taken such extraordinary measures to urge people to stay home, from the White House right down to City Hall. We wouldn't be doing all that if it weren't so serious. So, we know that this is an inconvenience. You're out of school, but this sure isn't any kind of vacation. You may be bored out of your mind and tired of seeing your family. I know, it's tough. But we adults will not be able to solve this problem alone. We need you to do your part. Of course, do all the things that you've heard about, washing your hands and using social distancing when you have to go out. But that's not enough. You must stay home. Not necessarily inside the house. We want you to get out and enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the spring. But please, do not go over to your friends' houses do not play sports together, and please do not gather in groups of any kind. Our governor has ordered that police should break up groups larger than 3, and we will do that. But what we really need is for you to be good citizens and think of your friends and family and do your part to keep them safe. Finally, I would ask that each of you consider taking part in something I believe will bring us together as a community. After our last City Council meeting, when Council unanimously voted to confirm my declaration of a state of emergency, I was speaking with a couple of members of Council, Ms. Sarah Lattimore and Mr. Johnny Kelly. They suggested that rather than just one day of prayer, that we join together as a city each day at noon for a moment of prayer. Just a moment to pray for the scientists working to cure this disease, for those who are afflicted with this virus and those that love them, for the families who have lost a loved one, for the healthcare workers caring for those who are in pain and struggling to breathe, for the first responders and law enforcement officers who are protecting us and risking exposure every time they respond to a call, for the business owners who are struggling and the unemployed who are worried about how to make ends meet, for all the leaders across our nation, state, and city facing difficult decisions, and for all those who are affected in ways we cannot imagine. And for those who are not people of faith, we still ask that you take a moment at noon every day to stop and remember all these people and think of ways to support them and show your gratitude. As I mentioned earlier, this is a time which will bring out the best and the worst in us. I pray that each of us will seek to find ways to love and serve each other, showing the best of Laurens. The way we respond to this crisis may be the legacy of this generation. I know that when history records what's happening now, the future residents of the city of Laurens will be able to look back with pride on how we pulled together and did what needed to be done. Thank you.